Today we're revealing 5 blockbuster trades that are 100% happening this season. But they are different superstars than the ones you expect. And to never miss an episode, tap that subscribe button. Let's get it. Welcome back to another edition of the Hampton Show. Joel, how are we feeling today?
I'm feeling great. NBA Media Day is kicking off. We had a couple media days yesterday. The Pelicans and the Knicks are 2 that I know of. And I'm excited that basketball season is around the corner.
Same here. Today we're revealing 5 NBA trades that are happening this season. But first, we're starting the show with fill in the blank where I say an NBA related phrase and Joel completes that sentence. So now that the offseason is over, Joel, the first fill in the blank is the team that will regret their offseason moves the most is blank. I put the Pelicans.
I'm going to go with a far-sighted take, and that is the Orlando Magic trading for Desmond Bane. They went all in on Desmond Bane, traded 4 first-round picks, and I don't think that they have a real identity yet. We know that they're defensive first, but the offense still leaves a lot to be desired, and they're hoping Bane can be a big part of the fix for that. But Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner still don't fit well together, and when you look at the contract that Franz has, and Bane has, and Suggs has, and Paolo is going to have, it is going to be really tough to build out the depth around these 4 players on the roster. They're going to be a second apron team, and I think it's going to end up in them eventually trading one of those 4 players, whoever is the most expendable. And I just don't think that they're in the best position for the future. They didn't give themselves the most flexibility. The Desmond Bane trade was more of an all-in move, and I don't think I see them as contenders.
So I don't disagree with you. They may end up having to trade him. The price of it's going to be ridiculous, especially when you're paying Jalen Suggs $35 million next season. But my counter is, what other move was out there? Because if the Magic would have went in exactly how they did last season, the fans would be restless. NBA media would not be that high on them. And the ideal plan this offseason was for Trae Young to demand a trade that never really happened. Trae Young was off the market. LaMelo Ball, you can argue if Orlando would have called about him, maybe they would have been open, but I wouldn't be that high on LaMelo Ball in Orlando. Desmond Bane seemed like the only move for them to make, and it doesn't mean it's going to convert to a championship, but if I'm looking at my options, I still would have made the Desmond Bane move. What other move would you have made, or would you just stayed put?
They would have had to make another move for a shooter, maybe not as high profile as Desmond Bane, but that's what they did last year with KCP, and it didn't work. So I think the Bane trade worked out only because they got to move off of KCP, and they're adding a major piece to the offense. I just don't know if it's going to result in anything significant for the team, but a team that I think is going to regret their offseason for sure is probably the Milwaukee Bucks and how they've handled this entire Giannis situation, waiving and stretching Dame, bringing in Miles Turner, even though that doesn't move the needle for them at all. I think the Bucks are trying to prolong trading Giannis as long as possible, but it feels like they're trending that way anyway, and they probably should have got it done this offseason to get the most possible assets for him, and I think they dropped the ball on it. And I understand not wanting to trade a player like Giannis. That is a generational player, but at the same time, they've kind of ran out of options at this point.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought up the Bucks. We're talking about them in the Central Division preview coming up next. But Giannis had a lot of interesting comments about that, hinting at, maybe the franchise would be done with him before he's done with the franchise. We'll get to that in a little bit, but the Bucks is definitely a noteworthy one, especially as far as teams regretting their offseason. I put the Pelicans. I mean, there's a reason Atlanta had to double back and ask if they were actually offering the 2026 first-round pick completely unprotected. They were. Not only did they do that, they traded an expiring contract in CJ McCollum for Jordan Poole, Jordan Poole is a guy who has 2 years and $65 million left on his current deal. Now they are betting on JP to be a somewhat reliable playoff caliber point guard. I don't know what data points at that. This is a guy who averages under 4 assists per game for them. And not to mention the DeJounte Murray injury that has occurred. They also overloaded at center by drafting Derek Queen and signing Kevon Looney on a roster that already had Yves Missy. So I think there's multiple mistakes on top of mistakes. And if I'm a Pelicans fan, I don't think the offseason could have went any worse.
It's gone pretty terrible. And then Joe Dumars came out and said that there is not a mandate for them to make the playoffs this year. And if that happens, then the pick now becomes a lottery pick. So you
Why did you
kind of
wait?
need to make the playoffs. Exactly. You kind of need to make the playoffs if that pick is going to be so valuable. So I just think the Pelicans really don't have a real direction. But hey, Zion looks great. He looks like he's in great shape. And
Stop.
I know you're going to that opener for the Grizzlies and they're going to play the Pelicans. I mean, I would hate for Zion to spoil your evening, watching the game. The player that you've been low on, going out there and dropping 30.
Yeah, that would be a shame. And what would also be a shame is if we keep watching and reacting to the same movie over and over and over. The last 3 media days, everyone's been like, oh my God, look at Zion Williamson. And it's been the same result over and over again. One time it's been an injury and he's only played 20 something games. The year before that, he played 72 games. And according to NBA media, he's a top 15 player when he does. And we've had this conversation. He didn't sniff an all-star appearance or an all-NBA appearance. I'm not scared of Zion Williamson, especially when it comes to John Morant and all the chips he has on his shoulder right now. So we'll see about that on opening night. The next fill in the blank is the first player to drop 50 points this season will be blank.
Devin Booker.
Explain why.
I just think that they need him to score more than ever now. Even with Jalen Green being added to the team, I feel like Devin Booker now not having Kevin Durant over his shoulder, having to focus on giving him touches. Booker's just gonna try to score the ball at will, and I feel like this is gonna be one of the few seasons in a while where it feels like he's kind of just letting loose and just going out there and playing free. And I feel like it's gonna do wonders for him, and he's gonna come out guns blazing. I just think D Book's one of the most gifted scorers in the league.
And this is a guy who scored 70 points earlier in his career. And hopefully, I'd love to see that. I put Shai, he did it 4 different times last season, and that's the only reason why. Joel, towards the end of last week's podcast, you kind of put a finals prediction on me. I said, I'm not ready. It's not media day yet. Media days are occurring all week. So now I am ready. But first, I want to get your finals matchup. So the fill in the blank is the finals matchup in 2026 will be blank versus blank.
I'm going with OKC versus the Knicks.
I go Nuggets versus the Knicks.
And who you got winning that? Or is this just a prediction?
This is just a matchup. Maybe we'll get to that one next week.
Okay.
I got you. The common denominators, we both have the Knicks in there. And that leads us to the final fill in the blank. Last week, you and I talked extensively about your team. Even off air before on this, we're talking about getting tickets to the New York Knicks. You had them higher than the Boston Celtics on, the power rankings over the next 3 years, or future power rankings of, wins over the next 3 years. You had them over the Celtics. I thought that was, you had them below the Celtics. I thought it was blasphemous. And then we specifically discussed Mikal Bridges and how he would go about his money. And this is what we had to say when it came to Mikal Bridges and how he would go about his money. And it's really interesting because he spoke about this on Media Day, and we'll get to that in just a second, but this is what was said. The fact that you have these Celtics above the Knicks is utterly ridiculous to me.
That's for 1 year. Mikal Bridges, if he signs an extension this offseason, he's going to get $40 million or more. Once he signs that contract, we are over the tax, and we cannot have that good of a bench anymore.
This is a team who got Jalen Brunson to take considerably less in the last 2 contracts that he's
Mikal not taking less.
Mikal Bridges, you don't think he's taking less?
No, Mikal is going to get what he got. He's going to get paid. He knows he can get a lot.
Everybody would have thought Jalen Brunson would have got paid. He just came off of a 4-year, $100 million contract. Everybody thought he was going to get paid, and then he just took less.
That is an anomaly.
Like a team guy to me, you should know that.
That is an anomaly. So you're banking on the fact that Mikal Bridges is going to do what one of 1,000 athletes do. That
was exactly what I'm banking on. And now, Joel, we know that number. Going into this summer, he had 2 options. He could have signed nothing and gotten a huge number in unrestricted free agency next year, or he could have signed the max. Mikal Bridges, being the man he is, he did neither. And in fact, he signed for $6 million less than the max, and he got asked about it at Media Day, and this is what our boy Mikal Bridges said.
Yeah, for sure. The biggest thing, I think, if I came here and preached how much I want to win and try to take every dollar and make it difficult for, the organization, then I'll just seem like a fraud. And that's not who I am. I want to win bad and whatever it takes. And like I said, I love all the guys here. So why wouldn't I want the next man up that needs some money, why would I not give them an opportunity to get paid as well? So I think I got a good amount of money. I think a couple of more M's will change my life. So I think it'll be better to help everybody else out.
Joel, this is the guy New York fans constantly say they overpaid in draft compensation for. They should not have given up 5 first-round picks because of how much he averages points-wise, and for no other reason. Instead, this is a guy who won you games 1 and games 2 against the reigning defending NBA champions in the playoffs, and who up to that point were, quote, the most likely champions to repeat. And now we're, having that conversation against OKC. So not only has he taken a pay cut now, he won you very pivotal games and pivotal historic comeback in the playoffs, and he's taking a pay cut. So the final fill in the blank is the Mikal Bridges pay cut was blank.
It was kind of a pay cut, I guess. I missed when he got extended because I had no idea. This was buried in the offseason. Apparently, he got extended July 31st, 2025. So this has been a thing already. 4 years, $150 million. He's getting paid $37.5 million per year. I mean, that's not that. It's $2.5 million less than $40 million. He's basically getting paid $40.
It's $6 million pay cut. It could have been well over 40. And the reason that, yes, 6 sounds like nothing in, the NBA economy, but it is whenever you talk about the apron. It keeps them more flexible to do more moves. And it's something, quite frankly, LeBron James didn't do. And when he did do it a couple of years ago, it was less than $2 million. $6 million is a lot of money. We can sit here and act like, they get tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars, so it doesn't matter. 1, it does matter. And 2, now that not only Mikal Bridges has done this, but Jalen Brunson has done it, you pair those numbers together, that makes this team a lot better over the next 3 years. And I want to admit something, too. I didn't know it happened, and that's clearly why we had the conversation we did last week. It was buried in the offseason. It was not highly reported on. But whenever I got the notification about Mikal Bridges speaking on it, I couldn't help myself but smile and bring it up on this episode.
I'm doing the numbers right now, and with everybody's contract, with Cats and OGs and Brunsons and now Mikal Bridges and Josh Hart as well, who he has a team option in the 27-28 season, so they can cut ties with him when they want to after that season. Those 5 combined for $193.5 million for the next 2 seasons. At least Mikal Bridges might be his kicks in 26-27. This year's $24 million. So, I mean, so it's a lot of money for the 5 players, but then they'll get $20 million off the books the year after. Yep. So, no, they've done a good job managing the contracts. But
100%. And when you put it in, and when you put it in perspective to Jalen Suggs' contract next year, like if Suggs and Mikal Bridges are virtually making the same amount of money, I would take that Bridges deal, 10 times out of 10.
No, it's a good value. I thought that Mikal would probably ask for $40 million, but I think $37.5 million was pretty much his market. Like if he wanted to get paid more elsewhere, he maybe could have done it, or he could have ran into a situation where no team has cap space in the offseason, like what happened this past offseason.
Don't do that. We saw what Nickeil Alexander-Walker got. That is for a specific group of guys, i.e. Cam Thomas, i.e. Brandon Ingram. That is who that occurs to, not in this newer market where Nickeil Alexander-Walker gets all the bread that he has.
What did Nickeil get? 40, 60, 62, 4?
Yes, and that's for a guy who's probably coming off the bench.
I mean, that's 16
so what is
million.
a starter, all-star caliber guy getting who does, the similar stuff and has a better frame than Nickeil Alexander-Walker? I mean, what are we doing?
Well, I don't think Mikel's an all-star caliber. I think he's a very good, very great role player. Like he is at the top of like the role player pool for sure. But $16 million for Nickeil Alexander-Walker, $37.5 for Mikal. There's a gap there because Mikel's a better player, but Nickeil got $16 million. It's not like he got like 25 or something.
The Boston Celtics and the LA Lakers have a lot of cap space. I think that they would have given
the
Mikal,
Lakers.
I think they would have given Mikal north of $40 million next free agency. That's my only point.
The Lakers, yeah. If he wanted to go to the Lakers, yeah, it makes sense. If he wanted to go there, but Mikal likes New York. He wants to get the job done here, so he doesn't want to go
fans,
there.
They got a short leash with him, but hey, I'm glad you guys continue to grow the right way, because this is my point with the Spurs, Joel. The Knicks negotiate with their players. they talk it out. They get them to take pay cuts. The Spurs do not. De'Aaron Fox does not. The Hawks are sitting waiting it out for Trae Young, but Trae Young's waiting on a contract that De'Aaron Fox got. Like, what sense does that make? And that's my point with the Spurs. That's a whole nother conversation. You want to get into the Central Division preview?
Let's get into it.
All right, let's start with the Bucks. The team you have brought up. They re-signed Giannis Antetokounmpo to a one-year deal. Kevin Porter Jr., Bobby Portis, Taurean Prince, Ryan Rollins, Jericho Sims, and Gary Trent Jr. They added Cole Anthony, Amir Coffey, Gary Harris, and Miles Turner. I'm about to throw up. My God. They said goodbye to Pat Connaughton, Damian Lillard, Brook Lopez, and Micic. What is your number one thing to watch for the Milwaukee Bucks this season?
How good Giannis is going to be. There's no other reason to watch the Bucks for this year. They're going to be a 45 to 46 win team off the strength of how great Giannis is going to be. I guess outside of that, it's just who else can step up. Miles Turner is now going to have to step up in a major way on both sides of the ball. Has to become a better rebounder too, or at least box out really well, because that's what Brook Lopez did. And Kevin Porter Jr., he played solid for them last year, so maybe he can improve his game this year with increased role too. It just seems like it's heading nowhere. Like I'm just so over the Bucks.
Yep.
Because each conversation about them is depressing. It's about, man, what are they going to do? Because they just have one of the worst rosters in the NBA.
Yeah, they do. One thing to watch is the clear-cut thing to watch. It's Giannis and what he does trade-wise. This week, Giannis, he talked to some Greek media outlet, and once it got translated into English, it kind of made headlines everywhere. I made a TikTok about it that's in production right now. But basically what happened is he admitted he's preparing himself for what he called a, quote, Luka-type trade. His exact words were, quote, just because you've given a lot to a team doesn't mean the team won't do what's best for itself. If he's already acknowledging that what's best for Milwaukee is to trade him, what does that tell the franchise? Now, the franchise has to realize what their priorities are. Is it to go into a rebuild and, potentially build a championship contender again? Or is it to sell tickets and sell that we have hope every year because we have Giannis? It might be a false hope, but if that's their hope, then they will continue down this Giannis lane. If their hope is winning long-term, they will trade him because there's nothing else left to do. They have exhausted every output that they can possibly do. And that is the number one thing to watch. Giannis on the other side, he also said in this interview, he got asked, he was like, what would be the one thing that would finally push you over the edge to demand a trade? And he said, it was simple. If I feel like there is no pressure on me or my team, I don't want to be here. And he means championship pressure by that. With the Milwaukee Bucks, I feel like this is the closest he's ever been to having no pressure. Nobody expects Milwaukee to go out and win the Eastern Conference or win an NBA championship. So I don't know what his definition of that is, but it seems like from those comments, it could go either way at any point.
It can. I think he's preparing for it. I think more so he's preparing for being blindsided by it.
Yes.
Because Luka Doncic wasn't advised or even let known about the trade that was happening. He was blindsided by it. I feel like if the Bucks traded Giannis, it would be more collaborative. I feel like Giannis wouldn't be blindsided, but then again, I would have felt that way about Luka before he got traded.
Yep.
Because once you let the player know that you plan on trading him, now the player is able to control where he wants to go, is able to set a narrative, and that can affect trade negotiations a lot. There's also another part of this where maybe the team wants to work with Giannis to send him to the best place possible for him to win a championship. But at that point, you're not looking out for the best interests of your own organization. So I can understand why Giannis feels conflicted about with the direction of the team, because yeah, he could be let known about it because he's meant so much to the franchise, or they could blindside him like they did to Luka. So he's just preparing for that type of outcome because he understands this team. He understands what he's looking at. He knows the roster. He knows this roster isn't any good.
Yeah, 100%. And what's interesting about what he said with the Luka stuff is it came after they re-signed his brother. Because I think everyone's reaction once they re-signed Thanasis is like, oh, Giannis ain't going anywhere. He's at least going to start the season there and probably finish it there as well. But like the fact that he's already thinking about the team could do, what they could do, that was very interesting to me. What is your record prediction for the Bucks this year?
I think 45 and 45 and 38, I think would be or 45 and 37.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, mine's around there too. I said 42 and 40. I got them finishing third in this division. Let's go to the team Miles Turner from the Bucks just left. That's the Indiana Pacers. They re-signed Isaiah Jackson, James Wiseman. They added Jay Huff via a trade with the Grizzlies, and they said goodbye to both Miles Turner and Thomas Bryant. What is your number one thing to watch?
How well Andrew Nembhard plays now being the starting point guard.
Mm-hmm.
And the leaps from the young players that I'm expecting, Benedict Mathurin, Jarris Walker, those are the two that I really have an eye on. I think this team is going to be really good. Tyrese meant a lot to the pace of the offense, the efficiency,
Wait,
the low volume turnovers.
you said really good?
It's elite. It's elite.
You
Absolutely.
think this team's going to be really good? I was just making sure.
Yes, I think this team is going to be really good. In fact, I wouldn't be shocked if they're just as good as Milwaukee. They have a similar record to Milwaukee because the Bucks might have Giannis, but the Pacers have Pascal Siakam. The Pacers have Andrew Nembhard. The Pacers have Aaron Nesmith. They have Benedict Mathurin.
Lord have mercy.
They have depth.
You just said Giannis and Pascal Siakam, but they don't have Tyrese Halliburton. That's the problem. My number one thing to watch is not even Tyrese's absence or Andrew Nembhard or any of that. It's their depth at the center position, at the big man position. They let go of both Miles Turner and Thomas Bryant. They're gone. They replaced Turner and Bryant with James Wiseman and Jay Huff. What wins does that convert to? None. And
James
not only
Wiseman
to
looked
mention,
good for them last year.
Stop.
Before he got hurt.
Thomas Bryant was huge in the playoffs for them. Miles Turner, obviously, we know his role. They lost their starting two big men, and they're replacing with James Wiseman and Jay Huff. I don't think this team's going to be anywhere near as good as Milwaukee. I don't think Milwaukee's going to be good.
Thomas Bryant, he got benched for Tony Bradley throughout the playoffs.
Tony Bradley ain't on this roster either. Yikes.
Yeah, the center depth is a concern, and I think that I would feel better about this team had they kept Miles Turner. There's no doubt about it. But there's still about 8 good players on this team. They still have T.J. McConnell. They still have Nembhard. They have Nesmith. They have Mathurin. They have Pascal Siakam. They have Jarris Walker. I mean, this team is still this talented top to bottom.
James Wiseman, number one, has been one of the biggest busts in NBA history. Number two, he hasn't been able to stay on the court due to injuries. Jay Huff, he was a revelation in Memphis.
He's good. He's good.
Let's not go that far.
And they're getting back Isaiah Jackson.
He was a revelation in Memphis, but there was reasons he could not get put on the court in anything but October, November, and December regular season games. He couldn't play in the playoffs, and he could not play down the stretch because you know why? He doesn't play defense. Yes, you get Isaiah Jackson back, but that's a serious injury he's coming off of. And quite frankly, replacing Miles Turner and Thomas Bryant with James Wiseman and Jay Huff is not the answer. They're not missing one starter in Tyrese Halliburton.
Jay Huff's better than Thomas Bryant. Jay Huff is better than Thomas Bryant. He's actually a better backup big than anything they had last year, actually.
So you're saying, okay, I'm not going to argue that. What I am going to argue is they did not just lose one starter. They lost two, Miles Turner and Tyrese Halliburton. That's why I have this team in the 30s as far as wins. I have them going 37 and 45. And in the Eastern Conference, I wanted to give them more than that. But whenever you don't have your all-NBA point guard and you're losing one of the best role-playing big men in the entire NBA in Miles Turner and replacing them with what they replaced him with, I don't see this team even cracking 40 wins.
Yeah, that's insane because the East is weak and they're going to crack 40 wins without a doubt. And I'm going to Vegas with that one because I know Vegas is low on the Pacers just like you. And I get it. It's the small market tax. It's the fact that, they're in a small market. They're in Indiana. Who cares about Indiana basketball? I care about Indiana basketball, okay? I care about Indiana basketball, and I think it's going to be some good basketball this year. I look at the players on the team. Andrew Nembhard, Nesmith, Pascal Siakam, Jarris Walker, Isaiah Jackson, T.J. McConnell, Benedict Mathurin, Obi Toppin. Bro, they still have 8 to 9 really good players.
But none of the guys you named outside of one was a big man. That's the problem, Joel. That is the problem.
They're getting back Isaiah Jackson.
Okay.
And they have
he's
J.
coming
Huff.
off a major injury. Let's just say he stays healthy. But all right, James Wiseman's checking in midway through the first quarter. What the hell is that? That's not a
Isaiah
winning team.
Jackson, J. Huff, I think it's not ideal, but is okay. You can manage that. You can manage that. Yes, you can.
You can manage it on the way to 37 wins. That's how you can manage it.
The Raptors with Pascal Siakam, when Kawhi left, they were the second seed in the Eastern Conference.
Don't even compare this roster to that.
Pascal Siakam.
Tyrese Halliburton is not playing. Miles Turner's not there.
That's why they're not a contender this year. If Tyrese was playing, they would be a contender this year. But because he's not, they're a playoff team. They're going to make the playoffs. There's no doubt about it.
This team is a hell of a lot closer to the Celtics this year than they are to any Toronto Raptors iteration of Pascal Siakam.
Of course. I think they're going to have a better record than Boston, though.
I think it's going to be similar shot for shot. They're going to be in the upper 30s for wins, and we can agree to disagree. Have you said the record, by the way? Have you said what their record will be?
41-41.
It's really going out on a limb.
Huffing
and puffing.
It's not in the 30s.
4 more games tonight.
Yeah, because I think they're going to be a good team. I don't think they're going to be world beaters, but I think every single night they're going to come to play. And I think you're sleeping on Andrew Nembhard a little bit. I feel like you don't believe in what he can really be, and I do, and that's the difference.
No, I do believe in Andrew Nembhard. I'm excited to see him in a bigger role, but whenever there is no big man and rebounding and defense becomes a problem, that is where I think this cracks, and that's why it will not result in success.
Andrew Nembhard is an all-NBA level defender. They have good defenders on this team still. Miles Turner didn't make or break this defense, and neither did Halliburton.
Tyrese Halliburton was the reason this team went as far as they did. And I know you're not arguing that they're going to be a championship contender, but whenever I'm talking about a winning record, Andrew Nembhard cannot be your second best player night to night. That's the problem.
You don't believe in Nembhard, okay? Noted.
I believe in him on what his role was last year. And I think this will be good long-term for his career, and he can elevate into that third star for them to ultimately win a championship. This team was 1 win away last year, but this team has now lost 2 starters and lost some serious depth at the center position, and that's why I have them with a losing record. Let's move on to a better team, a team that's going to be a lot better than them in the Eastern Conference, and that's the Detroit Pistons. They re-signed Paul Reed. They added Javonte Green, Karis LeVert, and Duncan Robinson. They said goodbye to Simone Fontecchio, Tim Hardaway Jr., Dennis Schroeder, and Lindy Waters. What is your number one thing to watch in Detroit?
What Jaden Ivey brings to the team. He's going to be awesome for them. He was awesome last year before he got hurt. Mm-hmm. And the Detroit Pistons are the most slept on, under the radar team in the East right now. We talked about Atlanta and Orlando and the moves they made. They were very pretty. They dressed up their offseason nice. The Pistons, under the radar. Duncan Robinson, Karis LeVert. Okay. Those are solid moves, but nobody was like, whoa. They didn't make a whoa move, but Jaden Ivey could be that whoa move that they make. Him being added to this team, having more reliability from your vets with Duncan Robinson and Karis LeVert, who I love Karis LeVert. I love his game. I love everything about Karis LeVert. And then the development from these young players, Asar and Jalen Durant, I think the Pistons are going to be even better than last season. And Cade Cunningham being even better than last season. I think the Pistons are flying under the radar, and we're talking about Atlanta and we're talking about Orlando, and we're not talking about Detroit enough.
Yeah, I think the Jaden Ivey point definitely needs to be highlighted. Jaden Ivey is the reason they could let Dennis Schroeder walk in free agency. Karis LeVert, adding him is the reason they could let Tim Hardaway walk in free agency. I'm not a Karis LeVert guy. I'm not here singing his praises, but I'm also not a Tim Hardaway Jr. guy. I think they cancel each other out. Jaden Ivey can be a massive step up from Dennis Schroeder. Schroeder had a great end to the season last year, but there was a reason he was on 3 different teams in 1 year. That happened last year. I don't know why Sacramento paid him. That's a whole nother conversation. But Jaden Ivey, I think that is the number one thing to watch. Another thing I want to highlight is Cade Cunningham's rise. Is he ready to be that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander of this team? Is he ready to be that Jalen Brunson of this team? Is he ready to elevate his team into finals contenders? That is what I can't wait to see, because I feel like for Cade, it is time. They took that step last year, and I feel like this step sets up perfectly in this Eastern Conference climate. Because when you look at the East, outside of the Cavs and New York, who are you scared of? You can throw Atlanta into that basket. You can throw Orlando into there. But I think Detroit is eye to eye with both of those teams this season.
I think they are too. and they have so much young talent and continuity, which I think is the most important. Atlanta has to learn how to play with each other a little bit. They're adding a major piece in Porzingis when he's healthy, and that's going to take some time to get used to. In Orlando, they've had some injury troubles the last 2 seasons. Jalen Suggs has been hurt. Paolo's been hurt. Franz has been hurt at some points in the season. So they've had some of those things they've had to worry about. Detroit just feels like a consistent team that loves playing together. They all understand their roles, and the additions that they made are more reliable additions. Malik Beasley and Hardaway Jr. were good for the Pistons last year, but Duncan Robinson is a more reliable player than both of them. And Karis LeVert is also a more reliable player who he's not just a one-trick pony. He's not just going to stand somewhere and catch and shoot. He is somebody that can shoot really well, but he can create for himself and others. He can penetrate the basket, and that's going to up the Pistons' assist rate. And Dennis Schroeder was made expendable because of that addition, but also because Marcus Sasser, the young point guard who they just drafted, I mean, he didn't play much last year, but when he did play, he looked good, and they're trusting him to keep on improving as well. So I love the continuity of the Pistons. I love the motor they play with. I love the passion they play with, the physicality, and I'm all in on Detroit.
Yeah, and when you look at their competition, we both brought up, the Hawks and Magic. I feel like they have things that Detroit does not have, and that is the word if. Whenever it comes to the Hawks, it's if Porzingis can stay healthy. It's if Porzingis can fit. It's if Jalen Johnson can bounce back from that injury. The Magic, it's if Paolo and Franz can stay healthy. It's if Desmond Bane fits right away. It's if they have enough depth. It's if they can solve those shooting woes. With Detroit, there's really no if. Yes, you would like to have Malik Beasley back, but with everything he went through, to go out and get Duncan Robinson is good. I don't like the price for Duncan Robinson, but they had to replace the shooting from somewhere, and that was really the only guy that was on the market. So I think Detroit has a lot less question marks than those two teams, and that's why I have them as a 50-win team this year, going 50-32. What is your record prediction there?
I like 50 as well. I think they can go 52-30. 52-30 would be a really good team. Be one of the top teams in the East. Something that is needed in this Eastern Conference landscape. A team to step up.
For sure. Let's go to the bottom of that Eastern Conference landscape. Let's go to Chicago Bulls. Offseason overview is they re-signed Trae Jones and Josh Giddey on that $100 million deal. They added Isaac Okoro, and they said goodbye to Alonzo Ball in that same trade. What is your number one thing to watch for them? Because I'm going to be honest, if they were in my backyard, I would not open the blinds.
If Josh Giddey's good,
yeah,
that's it. He got paid, and there were a lot of Bulls fans defending him getting paid and how it's good and it's a value contract. I guess in this modern NBA, players that don't contribute to winning basketball get paid $25 million left and right. So I guess it's all right. But Billy Donovan wants to run a fast-paced offense. He wants to be the number one pace team in the league, and they were that last year. And the Bulls were fun to watch. Like, the Bulls play fast, they score a lot of points, and that fits Josh Giddey's play style. His numbers blew up when his three-point percentage blew up, and it rose to unsustainable rates where I'm looking at if he can become a reliable shooter. Was that fake, or is he just becoming a great shooter? Because that changes things. If he becomes a great shooter, it changes his trajectory. I now all of a sudden stop becoming hesitant and I start believing in it more because he can pass the ball. He's a smart player. And if the shooting comes along, I would be really encouraged by that. But outside of Giddey, I think the Bulls are just looking for some hope for the future, and that's Mataz Buzelis, that's Noah Sengay. It's their young players, and that's what they have to look forward to this year.
Look, there's a reason that the Oklahoma City Thunder traded Josh Giddey and immediately won an NBA champion. You can argue that fit was that reason, and I agree with that. But it's also his conversion to winning. We're early in his career. It's too early to judge him. But if I were to judge him, the team that drafted him, who had all of that invested in him, traded him and won an NBA championship. The number one thing to watch is what you just said. Is he a $100 million player? Bulls fans can defend this all they want, and I know they're not going to like to hear this, but the answer is no. Right now, he is not a $100 million player. And the second way I would approach this is free agency. There was no other leverage anywhere. I'm going to say this, and this was my problem with the De'Aaron Fox deal that we've argued about 100 times. If there's no leverage, you don't have to pay him what you have to pay him. I know the Chicago Bulls have a salary cap floor you have to hit. Not a lot of people talk about that. Yes, there's a salary cap that everyone has to stay under, but there's also a floor for the bad teams. And I think that is not the way that you hit that floor. You could have it on lesser years. I have no problem with him making $25 million a year because somebody on that roster has to right now. But does it have to be a 4-year deal that could handicap you over the next 4 years and not compute to any success from there? I have this team finishing 30-52. I don't know if that's good enough for the plan. It might be in the Eastern Conference. Where do you see them finishing?
I kind of see them as a 35, 36 win team. They still have Giddey and Kobe White, and I think their young players are going to be better. I think they're going to be a good watch. They're going to be fun. They're not going to be awesome, but they're going to be a playing team. I think that's kind of a lock for the Bulls. Every year they're in the play-in.
For sure. Let's get to the final team in this division. Cleveland Cavaliers. They re-signed Sam Merrill. They added Lonzo Ball, Larry Nance, and Thomas Bryant. They said goodbye to Ty Jerome and Isaac Okoro. My number one thing to watch for them is, does replacing Ty Jerome and Isaac Okoro with Lonzo Ball and Larry Nance make this team any better? My answer would be no. What is your number one thing to watch?
It makes them better. It's just, does it make them healthy? And to be determined.
Yeah.
Lonzo Ball is an upgrade over the bench that they had last year, at least from a defensive perspective. Because Ty Jerome was awesome last year, but you can't stick Ty Jerome on an opposing offensive player. And offensively in the playoffs, it didn't look good in the second round. Lonzo Ball instantly becomes the Cavaliers' best perimeter defender. Mm-hmm. So I think if he's healthy, it swings things for them. And Larry Nance is some good versatility, just, have a big body, some size. And I feel like the Cavs needed to add size. So that was good for them. But it just comes down to health, because Darius Garland was not healthy in the playoffs. Donovan Mitchell kind of got banged up in the second round as well. The year before, you had Jared Allen that was injured, and also Garland. So now, Mitchell too, can they stay healthy? Because they added an injury-prone player to the roster now. So it seems like that idea becomes even more far-fetched. But if they are healthy, this is a 60-win team, and this is a team that can make it to the NBA Finals. That's how good they are.
100%. You and I agree. I got them at 59 and 23. I think the playoff is where we might disagree. I mean, you predict the New York Knicks in the NBA Finals, so who knows? Maybe we agree. But Ty Jerome and Isaac Okoro replacing that with Lonzo and Larry Nance is whatever to me. Lonzo Ball, yes, you can argue is a better fit than Ty Jerome. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is it's a much higher risk than Ty Jerome. Ty Jerome, you know what you got. He did not come up big in the playoffs, but for me, a team with title intention should not rely on Ty Jerome off the bench to, come up big for. That should, the blame should be on Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, Darius Garland, and all the other stars they have there. It should not be on Ty Jerome. Lonzo Ball, if he's not hurt, there's no Ty Jerome there. They just don't have a backup guard there. And that is why this team, yes, we both believe can be a 60-win team, but I argue what their ceiling is in the NBA playoff.
Their ceiling is the finals.
I think unless something catastrophic goes wrong, it will be the New York Knicks representing the East. Let's rank this division. I have the Bulls at 5, Pacers at 4, Bucks at 3, Pistons at 2, and Cavs at 1. I have the Bucks winning 42 games, Pacers winning 37. That's the difference between.
I have that same exact order. I would not be surprised if the Pacers are over the Bucks, though, when it's all said and done.
I would be. All right, let's move into the reason we recorded this podcast, 5 blockbuster trades that are happening this season in 2026. My first one is a big one, and then I'll toss it to you. We'll go back and forth from there. First one is Trae Young to the Brooklyn Nets. This would be the trade. Nets receive Trae Young, obviously. Hawks in return would get Igor Demon, Tyrese Martin, and 4 first-round picks. In April, Bleacher Report, they named the Nets, Orlando Magic, Phoenix Suns, and the San Antonio Spurs as the most likely landing spots for Trae Young, but obviously the Magic went and got Desmond Bane. The Suns dealed off Kevin Durant. The Spurs haven't been involved in a blockbuster at all in the offseason, and they landed De'Aaron Fox on the same deal that Trae Young is searching for. So I think Brooklyn has the draft capital to send to Atlanta and the cap space to acquire Trae Young. The Hawks have yet to offer him a contract extension, and that's why I think this relationship is going to sour, and it's going to sour very quickly. He's looking for $229 million over 4 years. Again, the Spurs just gave that exact same deal to De'Aaron Fox, but I think as frustrated as Young may be, there's not much urgency on Atlanta's side, and I think that's why this deal happens.
Interesting. I think that the Hawks are giving up way too much for Igor Jemin, and my goodness, I think that the Hawks are just waiting it out because they want to see how far Trae Young can lead this current iteration of the Hawks that looks really promising in the playoffs. So I think that he's going to get paid in the offseason. I mean, Trae Young is too good to just let him walk or trade him for that type of trade package where you get back Igor, get Jemin, and that's it.
This would be, in this circumstance, he would demand it.
But I'm interested in
this
just
is a guy
knowing,
that should not be waiting on it. I want to say that on record. This is a guy who should not be waiting on it.
I'm just interested in all the blockbuster trades you have, to be honest, because it seems like you got the players. It seems like you got Trae Young. You know where I stand. I think Zion is the only blockbuster and Giannis that could get traded this year. I don't see nobody else getting traded.
Okay, where you see Zion going?
The Heat. I keep saying the Heat. Yes, it could, because I think he could turn around his career in Miami, and I think that's what they need. They need a little boost. They need a boost in talent. I think if Zion goes to Miami, you obviously have to give up a lot to get Zion. Maybe less than other stars because of the durability concerns. But if the Heat can keep Bam and Hero with Zion, they become a dark horse contender in the East.
I vehemently disagree with that sentiment. Zion Williamson is everything that the Miami Heat don't want to be. It's as simple as that. Zion Williamson and that
he's in shape.
He's in shape every September. He's in shape every October.
Last year he wasn't.
Comes months into the season, and the problem is Luka Doncic is a guy who struggles with his weight as well, but Luka is still on an All-NBA level when he's out of shape. Zion is not. And that has been proven over years. And not to mention, another difference between him and Luka is he is not healthy. Again, he is everything the Miami Heat don't want to be. They have Heat culture all over everything in that building, and he does not embody Heat culture on anything he has done throughout his career. He is not available. He has made off-the-court decisions that have went viral and are hilarious to us, but probably wouldn't be hilarious to Pat Riley. And number 3, he has yet to take his body seriously for an entire season. So that fit in Miami is a problem. And I haven't even mentioned all the OnlyFans models that live there and all the food that would be available to him off the court. That is why I hate that idea.
New Orleans food probably is more captivating than Miami food. So he's probably he's managed to control it better there now because he looks like he's in shape. You know, I hate when you come up here and you say he doesn't play at an all-NBA level and you use accolades to determine that instead of your own goddamn eyes when you watch him play. Because Zion Williamson was 4th in PER across all players last year when he played in the NBA last year.
How many games was that?
Yeah, he didn't play that much. It was a little bit over 40. It was 30 games played. 30 games played. Okay. He was that high. When Zion played last year, he was legitimately spectacular. And I don't know why you keep on diminishing that.
Because it's the phrase you put before it. Before spectacular, you say when he played in 30 games. Okay, he had the 4th best PER in the entire league. That's a 30-game sample. I want to see it in an 82-game sample. I have, the year before seen a 72-game sample that, again, I'm going right back to the accolades. I'm not even going to talk about All-NBA. It didn't result in an All-Star appearance, Joel.
His injury was the reason the Pelicans dropped in the standings. The Pelicans were a top 5 seed with Zion Williamson healthy. Then he got hurt and they fell. They were on, he dropped 40 on the Lakers in the play-in. Did you not remember that?
Yes, I do remember this. Are we going to use the Lonzo Ball Chicago Bulls argument? Is that what we're going to do? Because when the Bulls lost Lonzo Ball, they plummeted in there.
Yes, he's very valuable. But Zion is a difference maker. He is without a doubt an all-star caliber player, an all-NBA caliber player. There's no doubt about it. He is that good of a player.
He's definitely an all-star caliber player. He's not an all-NBA caliber player. And you said, these were your words, him with Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero is a
dark horse.
finals. Oh,
Dark horse contender.
finals
But
contender.
yeah, I could go as far as saying that. Yeah, a locked-in Zion with
I
Bam
could
and
name
Tyler
you
Hero,
5
they could make the
teams
finals.
that would be ahead of them. The
No.
the New York Knicks, the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Orlando Magic, the Atlanta Hawks, and a team we just talked about in the Detroit Pistons, and that's not to mention when Boston would come back. This is not a dark horse contender, and as high as you are on Zion Williamson, I just don't understand why that's a blockbuster trade.
There's only 2 definitive ones in the East.
Okay.
I disagree with you about the other ones.
Okay.
Because Zion's better than all of their best players outside of Cade. Cade is the only one that I would say Zion's not better than him. I think Zion's better than Franz. He's better than Paolo. He's better than Trae Young.
Better than Trae Young?
Yes.
Let's pick on that for a second. What in Zion's career has he accomplished that is better than Trae Young?
It's not about accomplishments. It's about
It is, though,
who he is
Joel.
on the
This is
court.
the NBA.
No, it's not.
about accomplishing something.
No,
it's
it's
about,
not.
It's about winning championships, and it's not about that. It's personal accolades. It's what we use to compare players, not what their PER is in 30 games. Not that they have the 4th best PER in 30 games. That's not what we're comparing.
Okay, so let's talk about Trae Young's efficiency then. He's one of the most inefficient players in the league.
He's available.
We're talking about how they play right now. Trae Young isn't efficient. He doesn't shoot 3-ball well. He doesn't finish at the rim well. He's a poor finisher. And he is, you can argue, the worst defender in basketball. Zion Williamson is not a bad defender. He can play well on defense.
Zion's a good defender. Is that what you're trying to argue?
He's a good help side defender. Absolutely. He blocks shots. He goes through in the lane. I mean, he's a good help defender. He's better as a help side defender than as a perimeter defender. And then offensively, he is an elite finisher at the rim. And that is his calling card. He can get to the rim at will, and he's a plus passer. I mean, Zion Williamson, if I had to pick between him and Trae Young, all things equal, roster construction is built around them. They have a chance to win. I'm getting a healthy Zion. I would bank on him. I would bank on Zion. He's that special.
Trae Young is available. Trae Young is a 30-point-per-game guy.
Now, what has he been available for?
He brings something Zion does not bring to the table, and that is playmaking. Zion's
a great playmaker.
Let's not go that far. He's a playmaker.
He is. He's a great playmaker.
Trae Young's a great playmaker. Zion is
He's an elite playmaker. Trae Young's an elite playmaker.
Okay, Trae Young's elite. Zion's not great. It's a stretch if he's good. I think he's a
Zion.
Playmaker.
It's a stretch if he's a good playmaker. Are you kidding me?
It goes back to availability. We look at the stats. We look at what his team has. Trae Young has had better team accomplishments, better personal accomplishments, and he is more available than Zion Williamson. This is not an argument. Zion is not better than Trae Young. And I think if you ask every GM if they were to push all their chips in on one player to build around over the next 5 seasons, all 30 of them would say Trae Young.
Well, clearly the Atlanta Hawks aren't one of those because they haven't paid him yet.
If it was a choice between him and Zion Williamson, they would pick Trae Young.
You know, Zion getting drafted to the Pelicans has ruined discourse on him because had he got drafted into a better situation, we would see better results, because then we have people like you underrating how great he is. Just watch him play. That's it.
I will. I'll watch him play literally a month from today in person, and I cannot wait for it, because you know why? This will be the best shape he will be in throughout all of the season. I think he is an all-star caliber player, bro. He's just not on the court. That's the problem. That is the problem. I'm not blaming the Pelicans for that either. Maybe he just is what he is, Joel.
I understand that he's not. I understand that he's not on the court. I understand that, but we are judging him as a player when he plays. I think you are like, yes, if we're talking about the grand scheme of things, availability does matter. It matters. But just because of the durability issues, it doesn't mean that we just overlook how great he is when he does play. Because when he does play, that's how we should measure how good of a player he is when he's on the court. Just like Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid isn't available, but we know that when he's healthy, he's on the court, he's an MVP. So, you know, Zion, he is a special talent when he plays. He's a great player. It's not just an if with him. He has unbelievable production, and he impacts winning when he plays with the Pelicans.
I'm not questioning how good he is when he plays. He is a fantastic player when he's on the court. What I am questioning is when he plays 72 games, why doesn't that convert to a playoff appearance and or an All-NBA or All-Star appearance? That is what I'm asking you.
Why do you think it doesn't convert into that?
No, don't flip this on me. I am asking you, why do you think it does not convert into a playoff appearance, an all-star appearance, or an all-NBA appearance when he
They
plays
did make
72
the
games?
playoffs. They played OKC, but he was hurt, so he didn't get to play in that series.
That's like
But
me saying the Grizzlies made the playoffs last year.
but
Everybody knows
but
the Grizzlies were not.
Zion led that team to the playoffs. He got hurt though before the playoffs started, so he couldn't play in it. But he led that team to the playoffs. He was the best player on that team.
Okay, and do you want me to go back and quote Ja's statistics from leading that team to get swept into the first round?
And that Pelicans team was top
nobody's
10 in
sitting here talking
offense
about how
and
great
top
Ja
10 in
Morant
defense.
is when he's healthy, but everyone wants to sit here and talk about Zion Williamson when he's healthy.
Well, Ja, when he's healthy, is great. There's no doubt about it. He's great when he's healthy.
Okay. But you still have yet to answer my question. The argument is when he's on the floor. That is what you have shifted this to. And all right, let's move it to when he's on the floor. I think he's a fantastic player, but the answer I can get from no one who is super high on Zion Williamson is why when he plays 72 games does not convert to a play-in/playoff appearance, which, we can put that aside.
It did.
An all-star or an whole NBA appearance.
An all-star appearance, honestly, I don't put my value in things that other people vote on.
Okay.
So for me, why didn't it result in it? I can't tell you the specifics of why that season he wasn't rewarded for it, but I'm looking at the All-Star game in 2024, and in the West, we have Shai, KD, Jokic, Luka, LeBron. None of those players, Zion was going to take a spot over. Then we have Kat, we have Curry, we have Davis, we have Booker, we have Anthony Edwards, and we had two players from the Clippers make it. We had Kawhi Leonard, and then we had Paul George. And I think that Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, you can argue Zion was just as good as those two that given season.
Let's agree to disagree on that. I think that's a fair enough answer. You don't value and stuff other people vote on. We'll move on from there. My next blockbuster trade is a much lesser guy than Trae Young, obviously. I think the Trae Young thing, I think it would take a lot of draft capital and a lot of bad blood for something like that to happen. This one is a little bit more realistic. Let's say Trae Young stays in Atlanta. He gets paid at some point throughout this season. He's happy there. I think Kobe White to Atlanta in a 3-team trade could actually happen. The Hawks would receive Kobe White in this deal. The Lakers would be involved. They would receive Jalen Smith and Javon Carter. The Bulls, in this scenario of giving up Kobe White, would receive Dalton Knecht, Kobe Bufkin, Gabe Vincent, and an unprotected pick swap from the LA Lakers. And this happens if Atlanta, again, does keep Trae Young and pays him. They need to fix their plus-minus problem with him off the floor. And I think Kobe White would solve that issue. He would be the best backup in the entire league. Right now in Chicago, there's one thing that you and I agree on. He does not fit with Josh Giddey long-term, and they obviously value Josh Giddey more because they just gave him $100 million. I think the Lakers do this and get involved in this to offload Gabe Vincent and get a more durable defensive-minded guard in Javon Carter. That's why they're involved in it. And the Bulls, can anybody ever explain how they think through any type of trade? And that's why I have them making this move.
Basically, the Hawks just get Kobe White for a pick.
Yes.
I think it's good. I just don't know if Kobe White wants to be a backup because he plays well. He averages 20 every April. You can chalk him in for averaging like 28 a night. Every April it happens. Every April, Kobe White goes on a heater. I just don't think he's a backup. I think he's a starter.
Where?
I don't see why Chicago wouldn't pay him, to be honest.
So is Josh Giddey paying both Josh Giddey and Kobe White over $100 million? Is that a recipe for success for Chicago?
When have the Bulls had a recipe for success?
Exactly. That was why they would trade Kobe White for this.
Well, they were late to trade Levine and DeMar. They never traded Vucevic, and they paid Patrick Williams. He's on the worst contract in the league for a role player right now. He's not good. He doesn't play.
I think Kobe White, one, he doesn't have a choice whether he wants to be a starter or not. I think that would be where he would make the most money. And I think the market would be there for him in a role like this. And I think that's how his agent would sell this to him. Not to say that a guy like Kobe White can do a Kevin Durant and say, no, I don't want to go to the Warriors, or no, I don't want to go to the Hawks. One, I don't think Kobe White has that power. And I think him in Atlanta would be a move that I would frankly move Atlanta into a different echelon in.
It's just too many expirings for Atlanta because at that point, You have Trae expiring. You have Kobe White expiring. You have Porzingis expiring.
This would be
Those
after they
are
pay Trae.
those would be a lot of deals expiring. I don't see it. I don't see him being a backup. I think they're fine. They have a defensive identity. They brought in Nah in there to bolster that. I think the non-Trae minutes are going to be better this year because they just have better talent around Trae. I think they've been a problem in the years past because they didn't have the talent.
That's true. And I think the circumstances around this would be, one, Trae Young gets paid. Two, they're a little bit closer to 500 than they want to be, in February in the middle of the season. I think stuff would have to happen, but I don't disagree with anything you said. Do you have another name you want to throw out there? Or you want me to give my next one?
You give your next one.
All right. So this is by far my favorite because it involves my team. This is, again, a high-end role player. RJ Barrett to the Memphis Grizzlies. In this scenario, the Grizzlies would receive RJ Barrett. The Raptors, in return, would get Brandon Clark, John Conchar, Vince Williams, and a 2029 first-round pick. From a Grizzlies side, they fill a massive need on the wing that they haven't been able to fill since Dillon Brooks left. RJ Barrett is a much better shooter than Dillon Brooks, and he's a better fit than Dillon Brooks. It allows an older guy in Kentavious Caldwell-Pope to come off the bench, and it decreases pressure on Jalen Wells to fill that role that they want him to fill. The Raptors right now, from their end, they're in salary cap hell. We've talked about how expensive their starting lineup is, and this allows them to clear more cap space and helps them avoid that first apron. Instead, do they really want to pay a tax on a team who's a high-end play-in team in the Eastern Conference? My answer is no.
Wow, this would be really good. Uniting the second and the third overall picks of their respective drafts. I mean, this really pushes things for Memphis in a positive direction to where, I mean, they have 2 top 3 picks and they have Triple J and Ty Jerome's there too. I mean, yeah, it's talented.
Seems like there's a lot of sarcasm beyond that. Do you think this does anything for them?
It absolutely does. It does something for them. Yes.
Does this make them better?
Yeah, I think it makes them better.
I do too.
Is he better than Jalen Wells?
He doesn't have to be.
Well, is he going to start at the 2?
Yeah, a starting lineup of John Morant, RJ Barrett, Jalen Wells, Jaren Jackson, and Zach Edey's not that bad to me.
Okay. Yeah, it's not. It's good. I like it.
Okay. What other moves are out there for them to make, Joel?
No, this is the one. This is the one to make.
What other move? No. You can't criticize something and then not have a better move for them to make.
I did not criticize it. I love RJ Barrett. He used to be nicknamed Star J.
This is not a major move. One, the 2029 first-round pick they would be giving up is Orlando's. That's whatever. Paulo Banchero, it's going to be an end of the first-round pick. Number 2, this does make them a lot better. And number 3, they still have that coveted asset of the Phoenix first-round pick going into next summer that they can possibly do something with. I think as far as making them a better team, it checks that box. I'm not going to sit here and argue they're going to compete with OKC and Denver or any of that. That's not why they make this move. It's to gather depth in an NBA that values depth over star power right now.
Yeah, and RJ is just coming off a season averaging 21, 6, and 5 career year. He's disrespected. I think, Memphis would be a good home for him.
I do too. The final 2 guys I had on this list were just LeBron and Giannis. I'm not going to sit here and mock up LeBron James trades. I wanted to go through the most realistic trades that happen, and I think we've done that.
Yeah, it just feels unlikely LeBron's ever going to get traded. He just seems to pick his own team. Although I would like a trade where he would go to Cleveland. I think that would be cool, but I don't think it can happen because of second apron stuff.
I know. I would like Golden State if it were to happen, to be honest.
He's never going to go to State.
You don't think so?
No, I think it's
They
too
have
set in his
called-
ways.
They have called so many times about them. Like that report, I swear to God, it comes out every 2 months. Like Golden State called last year's deadline. They called, at this point in the offseason. Like I feel like they just keep calling, and you're right. I think he is set in his ways, and that's why it's not going to happen. Giannis, that was the news of the week from those quotes. It could happen on either side. Because I think up until this point, it was always like, well, if Giannis wants to stay, he's going to stay. If Giannis wants to trade, he's going to get traded. But the fact that he is fearful in his mind that the team could pull the trigger, and he is admitting to himself that this would be better for the team if they traded me, that was a big step up in this week. I don't know where it ends up. The Spurs were a team that were super involved with that, but now they have a guy on the books for the next 5 years that could handicap their championship aspirations with Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah, unfortunately.
All right, Joe, appreciate you taking time to record early. Next week, we should be coming out normal time. I am traveling this weekend, also going to Hornets Media Day on Monday. Hopefully, I have some peeps of information that comes out of there. If not, it is what it is. Joel, I appreciate you so much, bro.
Thank you for having me on.